Hey guys, welcome back. I just want to do another quick video on some trades I took today on ES, which again is just the futures version of SPY and QQQ. Now, yesterday I discussed how I used gamma exposure to find the big levels and to get an idea of where we were going for the day. And today in the pre-market, when we look now, it's a lot easier to see the pre-market on ES, and honestly, even if you're trading SPY, I recommend looking at ES just to get an idea of how things are moving. This platform I have here is Tradytics, by the way. This is actually what I trade futures on. So if we look here on the 3-minute chart, you can see all morning we were moving up rapidly, and we discussed yesterday how gamma exposure was at 400, which equates to 4,000 on ES, and right away with this kind of move, it kind of shows that the penning, we have levels that we have to fall through before we can actually get back to that 4,000. So immediately when the day started, I started plotting other levels. I started plotting 4030, which is 403 on SPY. I started plotting 405, 408, and then 4100, which is 410 on SPY. This would be 4080 on ES and 4050 on ES. And as I mentioned yesterday, I like to draw my gamma levels in purple, and I mean you can clearly see how 4030 we had a big reaction there. 4050 we had some good reactions there, and again, just for reference, this is the Tradytics platform. You can watch my video from yesterday if you want to see more, but if you could pull up individual tickers and look at option sentiment and chains and flow and things of that nature on their options dashboard. And I primarily trade ES and NQ with futures, so you can see here I look at SPY and QQQ. I always have their dashboard up, as well as the market net flow, which we discussed yesterday, which can help with trades. So I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to move right through it. So, you know, I have my big levels here in purple. I put some of the other smaller gamma levels in light blue, and then by looking at the price action, you can typically derive more levels. But one very useful thing that you can do is if you scroll up on the options dashboard, you can actually go here to the stock price and Algo Flow and make sure that you're looking at the 1-minute chart, especially if you're day trading, scalping. And you can click here and hit SR levels, and using their Algo Flow, they actually derive levels for you, and these are pretty solid levels. You can see this would be 4029 on ES, 4039 on ES, 4057 on ES, 4068, 4082, and I actually ended up putting these levels on my charts, and price reacted to them really well. And where I caught the biggest trades today was near the end of the day. One thing to note, there was the Fed was speaking today, and that caused a huge amount of volatility. I personally choose not to trade when there's big fundamental macroeconomic events happening like that. Some people do. I really feel like you're gambling if you choose to trade during those periods of time, and that's perfectly fine. It's just you need to understand that's what you're doing. You're not actually trading, you're gambling at that point. So getting right back to it, like we discussed yesterday, if you're plotting QQQ levels, you need to make sure you multiply by 41. So again, when I saw the way ES and NQ had been moving overnight, I plotted my gamma levels, just, you know, to take some of these here. Let's look at like 304 times 41. We had 12,460. So I plot those again with purple lines on my chart because I know I use them throughout the day. 12,500 was a big one, and then 12,540 was another big one. But when I look at the Algo Flow on there, it'll let me derive some additional levels, especially once the market had been open for a couple hours, and I wanted to get some, just make sure that my levels were right, to make sure I wasn't missing any. And these really do help when you see price cross with high volume, or you see wicks holding at that level. And one big confirmation signal I always use when I'm taking trades, and there's several examples of it on here. So this morning at open, usually when we get a big move up like this, we can expect some sort of pullback, and that's exactly what happened. And you can choose to trade these. I mean, these candles are large. It's very easy to get wicked out. But the very first move you can see is when we touch the 40-50 gamma level, you can see these long wicks form. At this point, you can actually, what I prefer to do is I prefer to set a limit order there and wait for it to test again. And then when it does, I usually get out the very next level, which in this case was a smaller gamma level, which was 40-60. Another thing is when we start really dumping like this, as we like break through this level with the strong candle and we bounce up and we hold here, that's another cue to set a sell order here, or I guess if you're trading options, you'd be setting a put, because this gamma level holds, we wick out, meaning that buyers fail to push higher, and then we bring it down. And I never just look at the candles. I feel like price action is a huge part of it. Price action and levels. But one big thing that is often overlooked when I watch people is volume. So when you see these pullbacks, like when you see the push through on high volume and this pullback come back and it's on lower volume, and then when you see it get pushed back down, you notice that the volume candle increases rapidly. We can't see it live right now, but if we were watching live, you notice that most of the volume is coming in from the top. And this is volume at time. One thing I eventually want to discuss as well is using volume profile on the chart, which is volume at price, which is a huge factor as well. So when we see this coming down here and we see this hold, this is a good time to take a put or go short. And the plan, as usual, is to just see how we react to each gamma level. And with 40-30 being in such a big level, you can even have your buy order ready to go to close out your order. But right here, when you see this long wick and you see what I would consider to be here ultra high volume, that's what we call stopping volume, or it's divergent really, because you look at these candle bodies and you can see that this candle body is super small. We have this ultra high volume compared to the previous candles. The only volume that really compares was from market open, which is always extra volatile. But when you get this kind of volume at 1045 on a major gamma level hold, that's what we consider stopping volume. That means it's time to take longs. And whether you choose to limit in, which is usually the safer idea, it might cause you to miss the trade. So if you try to limit in and it doesn't come back low enough to your limit, and then you start breaking up like this, then usually once we start moving up, it's probably best just to limit in at the next level. But you can be very confident when you see a long wick like this, ultra high volume, and then these candle bodies continuing to make higher highs, that we're going up, and that we're probably going to go right back to 40-50, if not higher. And once again, even if you close out at 40-50 and you see these candles wicking out here, a break above the VWAP, or even if you don't take it on this one, you let it move around a little bit, and you see, once again, perfect example, you see this candle wick out at this big gamma level, ultra high volume, small body, long wick. This is a perfect one to actually take a limit order on. And I actually did take some of these, but this time it was on NQ, and there was a really big push here. It happened around 12,400. Yeah, it was right around here that actually it was over here that I took an entry on when we tried to break lower and we held above it. I put a limit buy right here, and I was able to catch it up to 12.5, and then it even came back a second time to give you see another hold with some wicks. You see this stopping volume coming in on this candle. Now this is a big candle as well, but that it does have extra volume, and part of it is being stopping volume, and it's followed by another big green candle. I don't know if you'd really consider that an engulfing candle, especially since the volume isn't just as high or higher. But again, these are all confirmations of these major level holds that you can really gather easily from gamma exposure and from the algo flow for supplemental levels. And then it's really you play them level to level, looking at the price action, the type of candle that's forming, if it's going higher or lower, where the wicks are holding, and you go from there. So I mean, even up here, you don't have to be fully long bias here. You can also play shorts when you see this sort of behavior. Again, ultra high volume, which we would consider stopping volume, happening at a major gamma level. It's time to enter shorts there. and ride it down until you see stopping volume come in. So that's just some ideas for how I like to play it with not only the bigger gamma levels we talked about yesterday, but the smaller supplemental levels. Some of these I get from Algo Flow, some of them I mark myself just by watching the price action throughout the day. Especially at open, you tend to have to mark them yourself while the Algo Flow does its thing. But these are really super useful, and I just wanted to call those out. And I also wanted to touch on how I trade them. Like I mentioned before, I don't like to trade with lagging indicators. I like only using price action and volume, and therefore I look for candles like this where I see levels clearly holding with high volume coming in, showing me that buyers or sellers, whichever direction we're seeing the wicks, are stepping in to attempt to push the price higher. So I'll try to do another video this week to talk about volume profile. I really want to show people how you can do a volume profile reading to get an idea of exactly what price buyers were stepping in at when we were having an uptrend. You can draw it on the chart like this, and you can see areas where the most buying occurred, which is incredibly useful. And then there's also the more common volume profile that people are used to. You can see over here on my screen, this is the after hour session, so it's a lot smaller. What people don't realize is that volume profile, by default, it's going to show you daily, but as you zoom out, if you go to look at the daily chart, you don't want to keep the volume profile on daily. You actually want to make sure you adjust the volume profile to look at maybe a weekly profile so you can see big levels for the week. Anyway, I'm actually getting too far in the weeds here. This is going beyond what I don't want to talk about. I want to save this for another video. But that being said, I hope you all had a great day. Hopefully everyone made some money, or at least learned something, so they can hopefully make some money tomorrow, and have a good night.